It's November 2024, we're in the motorhome and we're trying to overcome the problem, which is the fact that our brand spanking new Xtrons radio, which has made a huge difference to our comfort and enjoyment levels in the motorhome, has a bit of a flaw. And the flaw is that it drains the 12-volt battery, not the house battery, but the actual car battery, which is a problem. There doesn't seem to be any way to switch it off. When you install a separate shutdown program, when it shuts the radio down, it just restarts. So what are we going to do? We've been and shopped for a simple on-off switch. We have just pulled out the radio and we're looking at the connector here. This is the power connector, and helpfully on top of the radio, if you can see that, is a key here. And it shows me that we've got pins 1 and 16 on the left-hand edge at the top. So looking at the top, it's on the left. So looking at the top, it's on the left. So these two pins here are the power pins. There. The top pin is ground and the bottom pin is plus 12 volt supply. And there's a connector which fits between the Fiat connector and the Xtrons connector here. So our first thought was to just take this away and cut this yellow wire here, this it's really fat wire, and intersperse the switch which I just showed you here. But there's a problem with that, and the problem is that we then have to get this switch through the fascia. So unfortunately that isn't going to work. So what we're going to have to do is do it all actually at the motorhome. So the plan is the motorhome dash is here. We can put this switch down here. It's going to come out into the glove box, and we'll attach it inside the glove box somehow. These two wires on the end will of course go to this harness here. We'll have to solder them into this. We'll break this yellow wire, and that's the 12 volt feed into the radio. So the plan is break that wire, interpose this switch here, and then when we leave the motorhome, if we can remember, every time we leave the motorhome for more than, let's say, a day, we'll be to put that switch off, and that will physically disconnect the 12 volt supply into the radio, physically power off the Android Xtrons radio, and all should be good. So let's continue. Okay, diaries, so we are in the cave. We have invested in some heat shrink cable protectors with some solder in the middle. They haven't been totally successful. The idea is you're supposed to take a wire, you put it in from either end, and there's a bit of solder in the middle here, and the idea is you can heat it up. We found that by googling, solder only melts at 200 or 300 degrees C, and a fan heater is able to shrink the cable edges but isn't able to melt the solder. And when we try to put an iron on the top, it just punches a hole straight through the plastic. So what we've done is we've put the sleeve on to the wire. See, our finished job is here, quite nice and neat and tidy. We've soldered the wires together and then put the sleeve over the top, and then used the heat shrink with a fan heater to shrink over the top. So we have used these cable guys, and now we've got the this is the wiring loop adapter. This goes into the Xtrons device, and this goes into the Fiat Ducato itself. So it comes out of the car into here and then into the Xtrons. Now this is just an on-off switch now, which will disconnect the 12 volt supply here, which means to say that the radio will not drain the battery.